So before we start, I wanted to answer the question of why we should use Flutter. And before we even get to that part, I want to answer the question of why we should use a framework at all. So the first thing you might have heard is that Flutter is a framework built on a language called Dart. But why can't we build our applications using Dart? Why do we need to use Flutter at all? And instead of telling you, I thought I would show you. So Dart is just like any other programming language where basically you make the computer do complicated math using words. Now this is a simple Dart program. All this program does is we have a counter, we have a loop. It asks you to either press enter or X to exit. It reads which one you pressed. If you clicked X, it will exit and it will finish running the program. If you clicked enter, it will increment the counter and print it out for you. So the name of this file is dart.dart. I got very creative with it. And we can run this file by doing dart and then the file name. So there we go. We're running it. We click enter, counter 1. We can keep doing that. The counter keeps going up. And as soon as we enter X, it exits. Now here is a similar program except built with Flutter. Notice you can increment this and it counts up a counter. This app is a default app you get whenever you create a Flutter project. So you might see a difference here already, but I want to break it down all the way. So the big difference between having a Flutter application and a Dart application, you saw Dart, you're just running some commands within your prompt. While for a Flutter application, we have this whole UI that we can interact with. Now, technically, you could do all of this with Dart. You could make a window that pops up. You can make the window resizable. You can make it have buttons. You can even do this little shadow thing over here for all the buttons. But all this code over here was just to create a little counter, just to make a piece of text show up on our computer. I hope you can imagine how much code it would take to make an actual application with buttons and numbers and shadows. So Dart is just that complicated math. And if you were using that code, you would have to somehow communicate with the computer that you want to create a resizable window and that you want each of those pixels to be one specific color. At the same time, you want these colors to be different color. And when you hover it, you want it to turn to an even different color. And I can't even imagine how difficult it is to make a shadow like this. But it is possible with Dart. And that's what Flutter did. So Flutter used that Dart language to write this complicated code that takes all those pixels and everything you have to take care of when trying to create this little button into just a simple widget called the floating action button widget. So using this line of code right here, you get all the functionality you would of creating a whole button from scratch with Dart, except it's just a lot easier to use. So that's why we would use a framework like Flutter instead of just writing in a native language.